I'm here in Medjugorje, and I'm with, what's your name?
Daniel Kais.
And Daniel, where are you from?
I am from Baton Rouge, Louisiana, USA.
First time here for you?
Yes.
And how is the experience so far?
It's been great. It's been great. I had some questions. Didn't quite understand what was calling me here, and I think I've figured out what that is.
How would you describe it? You had a question, and what happened that you get the answer?
I felt something about my family.
Mm-hmm.
There were some things that I was feeling compelled that I needed to reach out to my kids in a way that I just haven't been able to tell them how much I love them and how proud I am of them.
Mm-hmm.
And then how, at the same time, being able to lead a better example now, since I am more passionate about my faith and how important it is to me and my wife as well, how much I love her. And I think she knows how passionate I am about my faith.
We say hello to all of them now.
Hey,
you can say, yeah.
how you doing?
Hello from Medjugorje for both of us. And we talked about it, that fatherhood is so important. And I think this is so beautiful, your process, what you're doing here.
It is. Fatherhood is, we're the dying breed for sure. Keeping the American family together, or just a family together anywhere. This is worldwide. This is a reoccurring problem that we just see that's tearing all of us apart, and it's just making a lot of situations that are it's hard to love each other. It's hard to even think about loving God if you can't love each other. So.
And what is the conclusion? You said maybe write a letter to them or showing it.
I think maybe write a letter and then follow up with, visiting them face to face and just.
Oh, yeah. That is beautiful. And so far, what did you like most about Medjugorje from the places? Apparition Hill, Cross Mountain. You went today, I think, no?
Yeah, we went to Cross Mountain today. I really enjoy hiking, so anything involving a hike is something special, and to be able to hike across some of the places that Mary has actually appeared is really amazing.
You would say she's here. A lot of people say you can feel something. There's something here. Or was it?
I definitely feel it. Yeah.
How would you describe it?
Definitely peace. Very peaceful. I ended up going to confession about 3 days ago when I first got here. But then something was urging me to go back to confession. And it was something that kind of would reoccur in my soul right after I would go to confession. And I didn't know if I was being called to say that. So I went back to a priest and I went ahead and confessed that as well. And it feels like a tremendous burden has been released from me. Yeah.
And what would you tell people? There's a lot. Confession is one central point here in Medjugorje. What would you tell people who are scared to go to confession? First time, maybe for 30 years. That happens often here in Medjugorje. What is the beauty of it, and why not to be fearful?
I think the beauty is just realizing that you're facing a priest, but you're talking to Jesus. You're talking to Jesus, and he has just this tremendous compassion and love, and he wants you to be close to him.
Yes. And you said at one point you turned back to the church and you started to read the Bible, and you said you marked everything. That happened to me too. Can you describe a bit the process? What happened to you reading the scriptures? That's one of the stones.
So several years ago, when Father Mike Schmitz started the Bible in a year, I had gone on an Acts retreat, and I had several of my Acts brothers tell me that, yeah, you really need to check out this Bible in a year. And then I'd gone to daily mass. We had just started Lent back, I think, in 2000. I think it was the first year that they did it. And the priest at that mass suggested that people for Lent,
Mm-hmm.
that they do this.
Mm-hmm.
He was kind of passionate about it as well. And then someone that I hadn't seen in like 3 years,
Mm-hmm.
I saw him at daily mass too, and he told me the same thing. So that's 3 exact messages within a matter of like 24 hours.
Wow.
And I said, coincidence? Let me go check it out.
Yeah.
So I checked it out. I started listening to it, and the way that they arranged it,
Mm-hmm.
it was beautiful. It was like I tried to read the Bible before,
Mm-hmm.
and I just got bogged down. But the way they rearranged the books historically,
Mm-hmm.
and then the descriptions and of the priest afterward, and his thoughts and comments about it, it just made so much sense. And then I started realizing that I didn't learn all this as I was learning my faith in Catholicism. My mom and dad were teaching rules and laws. Thou shalt not do this, thou shalt not do that. But it wasn't until I truly understanding the Jewish roots. Where did our faith come from? And Father Mark Beard, this is something else that happened to me a couple of years ago. All these things were happening to me at this one time. It was like things were opening up from the sky. But, I sold my company, and I met this Father Mark who had been to Medjugorje. He had received a calling to become a priest. And it was like everything was just hitting me all at one time. And it was like a 2,000-piece jigsaw puzzle that was just coming together almost instantaneously.
Mm-hmm.
And then my wife and I started listening to the Bible a year. She started joining me, and then we listened to it again for 2 more years. And then we listened to the catechism in a year last year, and I just felt a calling to come here. I wanted to come here with Father Mark, but he had a tragic automobile accident back in August of last year, and so we're here with a couple other priests back from our diocese, but I think I'm here for the reason that I was called to be here.
Mm-hmm. And I think it has to do, like you said, with fatherhood, reconnections with your children.
Yeah.
Yeah. And you said also with your dad something happened that you could embrace him. Can you tell that story? It's so an impressive story.
Yeah, so I went through a period in college where I kind of fell away from my faith. My mom had been telling me that what I was going to do with my faith life for so many years, and when I got to college, I went through 3 or 4 weeks of kind of questioning my faith, and I stopped going to church, and I just felt empty. I felt just...
You tried out drinking also?
Yeah.
As we all...
Yeah. So I felt like I needed to go to confession. I confessed everything that I did. I started going to church because I wanted to go to church. That was one of my true conversion moments of...
The confession, you said, no? That you said you went to confession and you couldn't go back to that lifestyle, no?
Yes. And I just felt like I was doing it because I wanted to do it at that point. Mm-hmm. And then it started a whole, I ended up meeting my girlfriend, which became my wife, and then, 3 kids later. Mm-hmm. But, in one of those weekends when I was dating my wife, after I had gone through this conversion, it just so happened that the mass that we had gone to, which was out of town, this priest was talking about how this father and son had fell apart from each other, and they never told each other how much they loved each other, and one of them ended up dying without ever saying that, and the other one had so much regret. So I went home the next time, and I saw my dad, and I embraced him, and we've done that ever since, until he passed away 8 years ago.
And you said your brothers followed as well?
And my brother kind of followed my lead. He started hugging my dad as well, and we all started, hugging each other. I kind of learned that from the girlfriend, my eventual wife, because I remember going to her family, both sides of her family. Every time they saw each other, they would hug each other. Some of them would kiss each other, and it was like, wow, I've never seen this before.
often.
Yeah.
Me neither. I come from a family with hugging, you know.
So,
Yeah.
there's the love aspect is, I think that started with my wife and what I saw in their family and how we needed to bring that into our family.
Mm. So you can say for sure now, all the puzzles, this is God's hand in your life. Would you describe
Absolutely.
it like that?
Absolutely.
And
You just don't know how it works. Little voices that maybe you
the
feel
Holy
an
Spirit, maybe,
urge.
yeah.
Yeah. Thoughts that might pop into your head. It's sometimes it takes a little while to discern where they're coming from.
Yeah.
And,
Beautiful.
sometimes you just have to take a leap of faith and try something different. What's the definition of insanity is to keep doing the same thing and expecting a different result, right?
Beautiful what you say. And I would like to add here, this is very important to listen to this. If a thought comes up, like like 2 weeks ago, I got the thought I need to call my aunt. I called my aunt. I talked to her. My cousin said she's very sick.
Yeah.
I talked to her just a minute, and I knew afterwards, like 5 days later, she was dead.
Yeah.
So you have to listen to these inspirations. You will discern if you read the Bible, the foundation. You read the Bible. You put like the marker. You really ate the word, no?
Right.
You ate it up like me. I ate the whole Bible, no?
Right.
From the heart. You took it, breathed it in, breathed it in, no?
Right.
And then you will discern also that little voice, no?
Yeah.
If it's good, if it's from God, not good.
Yeah.
And what would you tell people? Why come to Medjugorje?
I think it's a good thing to come, but be open-minded.
Mm-hmm.
Be open-minded. Don't be afraid to go sit in church and to just listen. You don't have to say anything. I ended up coming with a group, and I really didn't know anybody in the group other than the two priests.
Mm-hmm.
So I really felt like I didn't need to spend any time with anybody. Now, I have spent time with people, but I felt like I was able to just go and do whatever I wanted to, or however I was called spiritually.
Mm-hmm.
If I felt like I wanted to go to adoration, then I could go for as long or as little as I wanted to.
Mm-hmm.
Go to Mass.
And for you, the rosary, you pray the rosary at home, or you're in the process to get to that?
So my mom she had made all of us as a family pray the rosary back when we were very young.
Mm-hmm.
And it was a very adversarial point for me and my brother at a point. It's not something that we really wanted to do, but we did it anyway. But, it was kind of building resentment as we were doing it at the time. And it was something that kind of caused me to probably go away from my faith a little bit. And it was probably responsible for that 3 or 4 weeks that I decided to try not being Catholic.
Mm-hmm.
See what that felt
the
like.
Resentment, yeah. If it's a bit forced, we children feel if it's authentic or if it's forced, no?
Right.
Yeah.
Right. And that empty feeling. And I remember I as we started having our kids, I just felt an urge that I needed to start doing something, whether it be a Lenten promise or something, to start doing something else for our Lord. What was I going to do? I had a 30-minute ride on the way into work every day. So it's like, I could probably pray a rosary. So I already knew all the decades and all that. I had everything memorized from my childhood days, so it was pretty easy. Just
craved in the heart, no?
Yeah.
And the effect.
And I can honestly look back at my life, and I can honestly see where, even though I still screwed up a lot of things, I didn't see it necessarily back then, but I see now how somebody was looking out for me and was able to give me a chance to pull things back together, because I still screwed up a lot of things.
Could that be also the prayers of your grandparents? A lot of people say, whoa, I think it was the prayers of my grandparents. Maybe
Well,
a little of that.
Well,
Yeah.
it was definitely the prayers of my mom, because
She's right. Oh no.
as I learned
Yeah.
who Saint
Yeah.
Augustine was,
Mm-hmm.
I look back and as I was learning about him one time,
Mm-hmm.
I saw the story how he had fallen into this life of casual living and casual sex, and his mom never gave up on him, and his mom just continued to pray for him relentlessly, and then he goes on to become one of the fathers of our church. I mean, how amazing is that?
Yes.
And I knew if she did that, and he's a saint, and if my mom never gave up on me,
Mm-hmm.
then that's what my wife and I have talked about this, and it's absolutely what we have to do for our kids as well.
Beautiful.
And just
Maybe also you have grandchildren already, you said, no?
yes, we have 5 grandchildren,
I think
and they're
it's
wonderful
fantastic.
parents.
Yeah, I believe
Yeah.
it, man. Looking at you, it's amazing.
And it looks like my son, who has 3 kids, it looks like he has more love for his kids, or he shows his love for his kids better than I showed for my kids. So that's tremendous. To me, that's maybe I wasn't quite so tough on myself. Maybe I was a little bit too tough on myself, but he definitely loves his
It's
kids
never too late.
and his wife. Yeah.
It's like the priest said, be careful that, life can end fast.
Right.
That you write the letter. Just, I can say it as a son, we crave for that, how to say, the blessing of the Father. It's written in the Bible. It's so important. Somebody listening now, fathers, you have to give that blessing. It costs nothing to say, son, I love you. And it can change the son's life, that he gets inspiration to do things, getting out of addictions, whatever.
Right.
We talked about that. A lot of you went to Cenacolo, to the community. And always the father and the mother, lack of love, and you get in, you want to fill it with something else then.
Right.
But it's beautiful, that's what Our Lady did to you here, in a certain way.
I think so.
Maybe
Yeah.
check out a bit on my sons now. My wife.
Yeah.
No, that's beautiful. And what can I say? I can only say thank you for that beautiful interview.
You're welcome. You're welcome.